Today on the bench, we have something relatively unusual, a good Blackstar. This is a Blackstar Artisan 30. It is inspired by various Voxes. It is not quite the Vox AC30. It is not quite the Vox in general, but it is very, very similar. And there's a lot of overlap between the sounds this gives and what a good AC30 gives. Let's talk about the general construction. Steel chassis, good iron, all the hardware is tight, good jacks, I'll show all that. All tube amp doctor tubes. I've had some definite issues with their octal tubes lately. These EL84s tend to be good. The preamp tubes vary a lot. This one was bad when it came in. It's got a new one in because I just happened to have it in the stash. They vary in quality, I think, from batch to batch. These are good, as is the EF86. Yes, this has a very well done EF86 channel. We'll get to that. Good quality IC connector, good quality fuse holders, nice ones that just take a regular flathead. You could probably use a dime as well. A good quality switch, I think the same switch used in Marshall's. 8 ohm for the stock cab. In this case, it's a pair of vintage 30s. Good quality Cliff or Cliff style output jacks, same for the input jacks. Very good, very neat wiring throughout. All the primary stuff, everything's bundled nicely. Good quality switches, wired correctly. The standby, the power, all implemented correctly. It's got a half power mode that's actually effective, a 10 watt mode. Good quality lamp holder. Nice to see in a Chinese amp. Now, granted, this is about a $2,400 Chinese amp as of this filming. In 5 days, it may go up a good 30-40%. We'll see how the world goes topsy-turvy. It's got good quality caps here. It's got some additional mechanical support with these little kind of like cable ties, just prettier, going through the board. It's got a good quality fiberglass board, good quality turrets. It does have lead-free solder because it has to be sold in various world markets, but it's a good quality job. It's not that kind of gray toothpaste you see everywhere. Down here at the rectifier, you can see all these wires are in black shrink wrap, which makes it a bit difficult to see. They've got a pair of diodes, probably 1 in 4007s, in series with the HT connections on the can't talk today rectifier tube. In general, I would prefer to see the secondary from the power transformer brought straight to the adjacent pin on the rectifier, and then a discrete diode installed from that pin to the active pin instead of being done underneath the heat shrink. Just in case that diode ever needs to get changed out, it's much easier to repair. But the way they did it was implemented very, very neatly. And they've got a thermistor on the output of the DC out of the rectifier tube, which then goes here to the B+. That's not really necessary with a tube rectifier, but maybe it de-stresses the load on the tube when you use the standby switch. I've not drawn out the entire circuit. The only changes I had to do to this amp, besides diagnosing that bad 12AX7, were the input caps on the phase inverter. This one was very, very microphonic, and this one was delaminating itself. These IC brand caps, while I am not a fan of IC brand large high voltage electrolytics, as I've mentioned, usually their film caps are fine. This one is beginning to delaminate the tiniest bit, but this one was just coiling on itself. And this one was very microphonic, and the amp had some intermodulation issues as a result, focused around A flat and multiples of A flat. So it's got a pair of Vishay MKT 1813s here. I did not replace all the other IC film caps because they are fine, and there would be no real apparent difference between a good IC and a good Vishay. While the Vishay, yes, that's always going to be good. This can fail, as these two did. I think that's pretty much random bad luck. Most of these are not going to have any problems down the road, and the labor costs of changing them all out. Yes, you would get even more reliability, but there's no guarantee that you would actually get any benefit from it. The sound would be the same as long as the values were the same. All the way down the line, good quality stuff used well, good solder joints, good mechanical connections. Nothing for me to complain about. Even the silver mica caps here, CDM, not generics. It's got 24mm alpha pots throughout and good quality switches. While the alpha pots do not have a toothed washer, there is a little notch in the chassis that the little locator pin of the pot goes into. So these are actually pretty damn solid. It'd be even better if it did have some locked washers, but it's not worth changing them out. The one thing I would change, if this were about to go on a world tour, is this is the cathode resistor for the cathode bypass output section. And it is physically very close to this cap. I would replace this resistor with another one mounted up in the air, get as much of an air gap there as possible. But the bias is quite good. With the wall voltage at 120 volts, the EL84s are idling at exactly 12 watts, which is pretty much perfect, 100% dissipation. But what's it sound like? Let's see. We'll start off on the EF86 channel. So from very full low end and lower mids to very shaved off low end but still having low mids to dumping pretty much everything below 700 hertz, which sounds kind of nasty for the clean stuff. But if I turn the gain up, do the same thing at the opposite extreme. So that's a useful switch for the high gain stuff. Which is always quite fun, and you can make it brighter or darker, obviously. You don't have a master volume for using on the EF86 channel. There is a master volume on the Top Boost-esque, Top Boost reminiscent channel. It's not quite the Top Boost circuit, but it's very nice. Let's try that now. Now, this also has a switch here, but they're only using 2 poles. So you have a bright switch, which just takes off the low end, and a full switch. And then from there, you have bass, middle, treble. So it's not the Top Boost circuit. Works more like you'd expect on a Marshall or a Fender. Still works really well. Gets some really nice sounds. Let's see. Turn the mids up and the bass down a little bit. Good, nice. And then you've got a whole bunch of gain. Again, I gotta watch my mic creep. Now, granted, it is a pre-phase inverter master volume, so as you turn it down, you lose gain. So it is a useful addition, but it is not a perfect master volume. If this were my amp, I would change this out. Or if this were a client's amp who needed to gig in a lot of different venues, I would change this out for a Larmar post-phase inverter, which means that it would sound pretty much the same, until you get down to, pretty low dB levels, in which case the circuit cannot sound the same because you're not moving the air. Our ears don't respond the same way. The speakers don't respond the same way. But with a pre-phase inverter like this, when you don't have a lot of preamp gain, a lot of the overdrive you hear in the amp is actually the phase inverter and the output tubes contributing to that. And if you're turning down the signal before the phase inverter and the output tubes, they clean up, and all you're left with is the preamp gain. So let me turn the master just down to where it's barely audible, and this gain is dying, and this is what you get. So the lowest possible. Now as I turn that master volume back up, now it gets a lot brighter as you turn that master up, as you heard. Now I can turn the treble down to offset that a bit, and I've got the mids kind of cranked, and I've got the bass turned down a little bit. But even so, I'm hearing that reflected impedance of really pushed EL84s, which is why the Vox that this is kind of derived from, and most Vox-inspired amps like Matchless and Top Hat and Bad Cat, etc., have what's called a cut control, which to the players, from the player's perspective, is much like the presence control on an old Bassman or the presence control that we more commonly encounter on a Marshall, etc. But basically, it's a way of taming the high end of the output section. And with EL84s, that can be a very nice thing. So I think this amp would benefit very much both from having a Larmar post-phase inverter master volume installed and a cut circuit, even if it's not externally adjustable, just something to take that ice pick out, because this amp does have the ice pick when pushed. But, if you turn it down, turn the master all the way up, and just use the clean sounds and control it with the tone circuit, the treble middle bass, you can get some very nice smooth sounds. But when you really push that phase inverter, you really push those EL84s, that's when you're really going to notice that you don't have that cut circuit. So after all that, I think we are left with a very good amp for the money. Very useful sounds. The things which keep it from being, in my opinion, a great amp are the lack of control of the high end in the output, which is traditional with this kind of circuit, which this amp would benefit from. And the master volume here kind of falls apart. I think most players would prefer to run the EF86 channel hotter than the more top boosty channel, have that more for cleans and edge of breakup, and this for the full-on rock and roll stuff. And that's why this channel could benefit from a channel master, but it doesn't have one. So the higher gain channel does not have a channel master. The channel which has a nice high gain, but really excels at cleans, has a channel master, but the amp does not have a global master. While everything here is very, very good, it just could have been a lot better if they'd gone that extra mile in the output section. Thanks for watching.